Sympathy, Symphony. If the middle mid-range Type B narcissist was honest. The middle mid-range narcissist is the most passive-aggressive of all narcissists. And they really do think that they are good people. They believe that they care. They believe that they love. They believe that they're decent, and they can't understand why people think that they're horrible, think that they interfere, think that they cause problems. They never intend it, because of course they are unaware of what is actually driving their behaviours. Middle mid-range narcissists are divided into two camps, Type A and Type B. Type B are the crybabies. They use pity plays and symphonies extensively. Their overriding mindset is that the universe has cursed them. The world is against them. Ridden by paranoia, they see problems where none exist, and where a problem does exist, it's multiplied times 100 because of the way it threatens their control. Tears can be turned on and off at the flick of a switch. Mid-range Type B could be violent, although it is unusual, and occasionally may show flashes of temper. But again, that is unusual. There's a lot of sulking. There's a lot of moping about. There's a lot of bemoaning the situation, status, injury, ill health. But what if the mid-range Type B narcissist were to be honest about their existence? How would they view it? How would they explain it? This is what would be said. I didn't ask for this, you know. I know you didn't either, but for once, let's not make this about you, and let's talk about me, yes? I never asked to be created so that each and every day I must gather the fuel that is necessary for my existence. Yes, I must eat, I must drink water, and I must breathe the air, just as you do. But for me, I have another staple requirement of daily living. I must have fuel. Did you choose to always need food and water? No, you didn't. Neither did I. I didn't choose to require this fuel either. But without it, I'll cease to exist. What I have created in order to survive in this world will come toppling down, and that will be the end of me. How far would you go to eat? At first, it's simple enough, isn't it? You go to the grocery store, or you order online from the supermarket and acquire the ingredients to make a meal, or receive a pre-cooked one. You chop, you peel, you mash, and you stir, and you make that meal. 100,000 different recipes to choose from. Instead, you may remove the packaging, pierce the cling film, and pop it in the oven or the microwave. Either way, you have food, ready to eat and to sustain you. But what if you had no money to acquire this food? How would you quell the rumblings in your stomach? Perhaps you might ask to be given food from neighbours, from food banks, or leftovers at supermarkets. It is demeaning, but you need to eat, don't you? So what does a little pride matter, so long as your stomach is filled? However, what if that charity ends? What if the benevolence of friends and neighbours dries up? What would you do then? What if there are no friends and no neighbours? Would you look to survive on berries you find by the roadside? Drink the water from a stream? Would that sustain you for long? Or would you tire of that? Would you scavenge through the bins outside a supermarket for food that has been thrown out but is perfectly edible? Is that stealing? Perhaps not. Would you cope with the status of pity and disdain from those who saw you surfing a dumpster? Would you steal from the shops in order to quell the hunger pangs? Snatch a loaf from a bakery, sneak into a house and steal that cooling pie, or rifle through the cupboards in order to find something to eat? What if there is no edible food in the dumpster? Would you remove the mould and eat what you find, risking illness? What if the supermarkets ran out of food and there was nowhere to steal it from? Would you scavenge from the orchards until that fruit ran out? Would you catch fish or hunt a lamb or grab a chicken in order to cook and eat it over an open fire? What if the usual sources of meat began to vanish? having fallen prey to starving wild animals following the collapse of civilization, what then? Would you try new sources? Would you, driven by hunger, hunt down and eat a sparrow or a robin? How about an owl? A gull? Would you slaughter a fox in order to eat its meat? Where would you stop? Would you eat another human being in order to survive? When needs must be met, where would you draw the line? How far would you go to feed yourself and your loved ones? Begging? Growing your own? Stealing? Savagery? Cannibalism? Do you have a limit? Or when the chips are down and your stomach is knotted with the agony of starvation, would there be no limit? How far would you go? Would you fight another person for a packet of rice, beat someone up in order to steal their hoard of windfalls? Would you consider their loss of food source and their injuries an acceptable consequence of your own necessary survival? Would this become collateral damage in the pursuit of survival? Abhorrent as it may sound, I should imagine when the need really arises that you would go beyond the unpalatable in order to survive. Now, replace food with the need for fuel, and perhaps you will start to understand that I haven't got a choice other than to gather this fuel from different sources and in different ways throughout the course of each day. The consequences which arise may seem regrettable to you, but they're purely the result of this need for me to gain fuel. I can't help what I do. I didn't ask to have to do this, but the way I have been created means I have to do it. In the same way that you would fight to ensure your own survival rather than curling up and dying in a hole, so must I. Does that make me what would be regarded as a bad person for just doing what I need to do in order to exist? I say it doesn't. I didn't ask for this, you know, yet it's been imposed upon me. This is who I am. This is how I have to be. It isn't fair. I don't like it any more than you do, but I'm the one that has to carry this burden. I'm the one that has to put up with it. I know that what I do has consequences for others. I'm not stupid. I'm intelligent enough. I'm not a blind man, and I'm not a fool. I understand fully the devastation that I cause as I tear through somebody's life, sucking everything in, hurling it about, and then discarding it broken and shattered. I don't mean to hurt people. It just happens. I can't help it. This is the way that I am. This is what happens. Somehow I wish it could stop. Yet it can't. So it has to go on. I've heard the complaints, the stories, the recollections and the accounts. I've heard the cries of dismay, the wails of misery, the screams of terror and the slow sobs of pain. I know what's caused by my actions, but I don't have a choice. I don't set out to achieve these things, but they must always arise as a consequence of what I must do. I don't like to see people hurt. I don't like to see people crying. But my needs come first. You do the same, I know. If you were put in this position, you would have to do whatever it took to ensure that you survived. And if others end up being hurt by that, then so what? That's just the way that it is. Please understand, I never asked for this. You ought to be sympathetic towards me, to understand that I carry such a heavy burden as I do, that I have to walk this earth with this weight upon me. Imagine that. Imagine how you would feel. Then imagine how it feels for me. Each and every day, I have to go and get this fuel. I have to control everybody around me. I'm pretty good at it. I like to think that. I get the fuel, I'm still here, aren't I? But it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I always mean well. I always try to help. It just sometimes means that other people get hurt, and that's what's necessary for my survival, for me to be here. I don't feel any guilt or remorse. Not really. Sometimes I think that I do, but I don't. I understand I'm devoid of those emotions. It's another consequence of the way that I've been created. How would you feel if that happened to you? You should show some understanding. You should be supportive about what I have to put up with. I don't feel any shame in these actions. I don't feel any pity, although I can show that I do, just part of getting what I want. I don't feel pity for those who suffer from my behaviours. And I don't have any sense of empathy for those who are cut down by my machinations. I'm not burdened by those emotions, but my burden is even bigger. It's all right for you. You can feel all of these things. I can't. Imagine what that must be like for me. You get to be happy. You get to be joyful. You get to be ecstatic. I have to go and control everybody and gain fuel. I have to take pieces from other people and create who I am. You don't have to do that. It's hard work, you know. But you've got to understand I'm not a bad person. I don't toss and turn at night. I don't have my sleep peppered by nightmares or torment. I sometimes say that I do. That's just part of having to tell lies in order to get what I need. But it is necessary. I don't mean to hurt anybody when I do that. It's just that I need the fuel, so I'm made to say these things. I don't sit in anguish and seek absolution for everything that I've done and everything that I'm about to do, but I pretend that I do, because again, I have to tell these lies. I don't like it any more than you do, so don't go around thinking that I'm a bad person. I truly am not. What I do is invite you to understand me. I want you to understand what I am, what I must do and what arises from this, and if you were in my shoes, then you'd do the same, wouldn't you? This doesn't make me a bad person, does it? I'm a good man who is having to do a bad job. Don't you agree? And there is an example of a monologue by a middle range type B narcissist, if he was honest about what he was and the way that he functions. Of course, he doesn't know all of this. He doesn't know the reasons why he seeks the prime aims. All he believes is that he is a good man and that he is decent and kind and caring, and if sometimes things go wrong, well, that's not his fault. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.